And Dr. Atkinson, what do you think it's like being a child growing up in 2014?
I think we need to be careful not to tar them all with exactly the same brush. They say to me, I'm not a children. I am an individual. And I think what's great about this survey is the breadth and depth of opinion that is shared. Yes, there are some worrying signs, and children and young people tell us all the time in my office.
The vast majority of children say they're stressed. I mean, that's a really worrying sign, isn't it?
Many of them say they're stressed. If you look at the survey and break it down, about half of children, it's very occasionally. The 10% who are seriously stressed, that's a reflection of the known figures for children who are anxious or depressed and need help in school and in society. They are a generation that has more technology, more access to more things potentially pressing on them than we ever did.
And Enver, we've had lots and lots of comments on this. This is from Brenda Hopkins via Facebook. It says, at 11 to 15 years old, I didn't even know what stress was, i.e. what the word meant. I mean, are you surprised by children being put under pressure like this? Because childhood is meant to be the least stressful time of your life, right? Or one of them.
It is, and I think, you know, being a child in the UK today is very different than it was a generation ago.
In what way?
You know, the nature of technology has changed, the pressures, how you look, you know, how you get on with your friends, all those things have changed. And I think for me, one of the key things is that we need to understand that children need to be given the space to develop, and we need to allow children to be who they want to be, and we need to listen to them and recognise them. And in school, we fixate too much on them getting good results, and not surprisingly, many kids feel stressed by that. We should be concentrating on supporting them to be who they are and develop who they want to be.
But are they being allowed to? Again, some more viewer comments. Rory Miller via Twitter says, as a 16-year-old, I think way more than half people in my school worry about what people think about them. Alicia King says it's shocking that 11-year-olds are thinking about plastic surgery at such a young age. And Ellie Hilton, also a teenager, says it's being a teenager, there's too much pressure and expectation being put on you at school and society. Judgment is always there. How do we stop this, Maggie?
Judgment is always there, but one of the things that Enver just said I would absolutely echo, which is they all have opinions. Even children with all sorts of disabilities and difficulties have opinions, and they are young citizens. We need to make sure that they're sufficiently educated to express them, and then when they express them, we need to listen. And when we've listened, we need to work with them to make things better. They are what social theorists would call agents in their own right. And it's really important that we see that. And don't forget that this survey also says some very positive things. Nearly 3/4 get enough time from their adult carers or parents. Almost 70% eat at least one meal a day round the family table.
Which is
Let's not just stereotype this generation.
Because we think that that's always gone, haven't we?
But you know, I wish Michael Gove could have heard that comment that you just mentioned there, because actually I think kids are under too much pressure to do well at school. And it's not just about what grades you get as a child, it's about how you become an adult and being able to express yourself.
But is that school or is that technology? And is technology a saint or a sinner here? Because as you said in Peter's report, children have 3 or 4 screens around them every day and they're interacting with their peers, not necessarily adults. Is that technology's fault?
The difference that we found when we reported on pornography last year is that the big difference is the internet between children who've always been interested in salacious images and children who've got access to it on their phones, on the school bus. They told us that the big pressure is from technology. There is very little difference between them and previous generations, apart from that pressure.
You can't roll that back, Enver. So as a parent or as a child, how do you cope with technology in this century?
Well, I think, you know, we've always taught children to cross the road safely. We need to teach them to use the internet safely. It's the same concept. The same thing applies. But I think that the nature of interactions have changed in an unimaginable way to even when I was a child. And the fact that so many children can be targeted online, can be bullied online, means that childhood is different and is more challenging. But we need to have confidence that we can equip children to be resilient and to be able to cope in a way that we give them confidence.
How do you do that? I mean, that sounds great theoretically,
resilience.
but practically, how do you do that, Maggie?
We know that children and young people want the right sorts of lessons in school.
Are they getting them?
Enver has named one politician, but let's not forget that every single group of politicians has pushed and pushed and pushed for a very heavily exams-based curriculum. Children and young people, teachers, pressure groups, charities, medics have been saying for years it's really important that school is also the place where you learn about resilience and you learn about friendship and you learn about safe relationships. It's
Right.
just as important at school as it is at home.
But it's not, okay, and on the issue of home, what about parents' responsibilities? What should they be doing then? Because after all, it's their children.
It is their children, and I think every parent wants the best for their child, and they want to be able to do the best for their child.
How do they go about that?
Well, government has a role to support them and to help them
What's
to
the
do
government
that.
has to support parents?
Well, it has to feel that if you're a parent and you're under pressure and you're worried that your child is doing the wrong thing online, you need help. You need to know how to support your child. We can't assume that, you know, just because you're a parent, you know how to bring up a child.
You can talk to them, can't you?
You
Absolutely,
can, but if a
and-
child is going off the rails and mum or dad is worried, they need to be able to access support in a way that's going to help them to you know, ensure that their child does not develop the mental health problems that will cost the state and NHS much
That's
more in the
really
future.
important, Enver, but I mean, this is 1,500 youngsters. My own advisory board of 11 to 18-year-olds got 1,300 youngsters to say what was most important to them. And what's most important is relationships and trust and time from the people you love.
Okay, and I'm sorry to push you, we've got so much to fit in. On the issue of parenting, but not to do with technology, again, lots and lots of emails about how much space you give your children. Mishan Emil says, there's not a chance to let my children play outside. I'd rather they watch TV or read their books. I've got no security watch over them. And Jackie Pearson, again on Facebook, says, after what happened to poor little April Jones, I even keep my 15-year-old indoors more than I used to. So what's it like being a parent in 2014?
The dangers have always been there. It's just that we know more about them. I would imagine that every adult watching this evening had a grandma who, like mine, said, now you don't talk to strangers. You come home on the bus.
But also grandma that says, we'll see you at 5 p.m. tonight. I don't want to see you before, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes that's how some families work. And, you know, I'm in my late 50s and it was like that when I was a child as well. We just know more about it these days. Teach them how to say no, to run, to say, I'm not going with you, I'm going with my friend.
But I think often we're fearful of children. You know, we've had a government that brought forward legislation that would have effectively potentially criminalised kids for hanging around on street corners. You know, we need to welcome children in our communities and see them as an asset.
We did have that, and very, very luckily, every party in the Lords said no, and the government said, we hear you.
Right.
So, yeah, don't just blame the politicians. They all belong to all of us.